in making this thing involves blowing oxygen through molten metal to oxidizing things like silicon, phosphorus, and nickel. The process to make this product involves reducing the content of one element in pig iron and adding alloy. That is Isaac. That is correct. And that is for 5 points. All right. Question number 2. This diagram is the portion called the instability curve. That is correct. That's good. It's called the curve from muscle ride. That is correct. Number 3, along with Crow's law, this means pioneering statement of the law of multiple proportions led to the study of stoichiometry. This scientist published a law stating that the total pressure in the mixture of gases is equal to the pressure of the individual gases. For the points, name this English scientist who pioneered. That is Treehouse. Oh no, sorry. That is correct. And that is for 4 days. Here, moving on to number 4. Awesome. Infantile onset examples of this disease are marked by the appearance of a cherry red spot within the retina. This disease is usually commonly French native. That is Isaac. That is incorrect. We're going to keep going. Cajun and Ashkenazi Jewish communities. For the points, natives. That is Ashkenazi. That is correct. And that is for 4 points. She said taste sauce. Taste.
I tried to say strong.
Next one is okay, you got it. We're going on to question 5, but you're doing a good job. Question 5. One of these areas is called Great Leaf Area off the U.S. East Coast is responsible for escarpments called corner ruts, along with intrusions in the White Mountains. Seamount chains can be created by these areas typified. That is correct. And that is for 5 points. Good buzz. We are moving on to question number 6. This astronomical object is a crater called Gertrude, and it was discovered by William Herschel. That is just. That is incorrect. Alongside Oberon, this moon is the smallest in the outer solar system to be its planet's largest moon. Name it. That is Alfred. That is correct. And that is 5 points. He said, then Titan, and I'm going to have to throw the question here, so I messed it up. So I was actually wrong. So we're going to throw it out and we're going to do it again. Okay, everybody's going to be a buzz. Replace that question. Okay, give me a second to scroll down. All right, so this is replacing the question. Buzz, everyone is able to buzz. This is replacing question number 6. This phenomenon is often funneled via mountain passes, such as the Newhall and Cajun passes. This phenomenon is a type of catabolic wind which originates from a high pressure area. That is incorrect. Basin and this phenomenon can also serve to carry valley fevers or populated areas. These winds, which typically occur in autumn, are also known as Teatro winds when they occur near San Francisco Bay. For the points, name these winds which often spread wildfires in Southern California. That is incorrect. Right, that is, get on that question and answer that you're looking for is a sentence. Areas for this possible answers. Now we're going on to question 7. Which points? Question 7. This property is the reason why an object sliding on a frictionless surface continues moving indefinitely. Galileo's thought experiments on a tiny things help establish the conceptual basis for this property, which contradicts Aristotle's idea that motion requires that is that base. That is incorrect. The fourth for the points, name this subject of Newton's first. That is rubble. That is correct. And that is your 4. Right. Question 8. Random ones of these things can be generated when a sequence is shuffled by a shuffle. For us, it's I said. That is incorrect. For a set of n distinct elements, there are exactly n factorial ones of these things for the points, namely 3 arrangements of set in which that is Alfred. That is correct. That's all right. We are moving on tonight. We're going to question 9. No, not a question, on the question. All right. High values for this property are related to low Secchi depths, which are determined by observing the point at which a galactic white disk is no longer invisible. Downhill movements of water filled with the sediment make up this property's currents. For the points, name this property describing the degree of cloudiness in the water. That is Alfred. That is incorrect. Okay, that's it on that question. The answer that we were looking for is turbidity. All right, question 10. This website's Markdown-based editor uses PageDown, a library from Markdown. Users with sufficient reputation in cloud poses. That is Isaac. That is incorrect. On this website, as duplicates or edit questions tagged with technologies such as Python or Java. For the points, name this question and answer website where programmers commonly debug code. A website aiming for a type of software error. That's incorrect. The answer that I'm looking for there is static. Let's go ahead and use words that we go to. We are moving on question number 11. The whole contrast technique is used in the functional form of this technique. Patients being examined with this technique. That's 5 points. Question 12. You sure can. Question 12. These events, first detected by Bella satellites searching for nuclear tests, are divided into long and short. That is us. That is correct. And that is for 6 points. We're moving on to question 13. Question 13. The virus responsible for this disease uses the ACE2 receptor to depose cells, a process mediated by its glycoprotein. That is Isaac. That is incorrect. Glycoprotein. This disease can trigger a hyperinflammatory immune response known as a cytokine storm, and its variants incorrect. Include delta. Alfred. That is incorrect. The answer that we were looking for is COVID.
What did you say?
COVID. All right, we are moving on to question 14. All right, question 14. Great job. These numbers include all of the transcendental numbers, and these numbers are contrasted. That is Alfred. That is correct. That is for 6 points. Good toss. All right, we're moving on to question 15. A pseudo-vector measuring the amount of these units traveled per second is signified by the lowercase letter omega. One complete revolution measured as 2 pi of these units. One of these units is that is for me.
Yes.
That is incorrect. That is correct. Radiant. We're moving on to question 16. On question 16, we have Ignaz's Semmelweis was called the savior of mothers for his promotion of using chlorinated lime for this procedure. That is correct, and that is the 6. Question 17. A protocol to implement these services that perform better than IPsec is WireGuard. McAfee owns one of these services. That is Trust. That is incorrect. Called tunnel error, which features the use of AES 256 encryption and the spoofing of IP addresses. For the points, name these services that extend a private system across other untrusted infrastructures, which include variants like Surcharge. That is incorrect. And a product prefix node. That is incorrect. The answer that we were looking for is X. Big virtual price and 1. All right, in question 18. Tiger moths evolved a defense against this behavior that involves producing bursts of rapid currents. Along with communication, facilitating this behavior on purpose of the ball of fat called a melon fountain. That is tough. That is correct. 5 points. We are moving on to question 19. All right. Overactivity of these glands is a major factor in the development of vulgaris. These glands secrete a substance that lubricates the skin. That is eyesight. P.
Sweat.
That is incorrect. That is Shrivas. That is correct. Wait. Over 45. But one. This feature research proposed using both pre-morphemation and reference patients and next time for disastrous nasal surgery. Hysteria. This researcher proposed that the unconscious was composed of the ego, superego, and id. For the points, name this Austrian neurologist and psychologist, the father of psychoanalysis. That repeat. That is incorrect. That is correct. That is for 3 points. The answer is wrong. His first name is Satan's. All right, we are moving on to question 21. This autoimmune disorder targets oligodendrites, leading to the destruction of the myelin and sleeve nerve fibers. It can present as relapsing remitting or progressive forms and frequently leads to muscle weakness, fatigue, and coordination problems. Points. Name this neurological disease, abbreviated as. That is Shrikasa. That is correct, and that is the bonus. Moving on to question 22. When ethylene gas is reacted with this element, it creates a compound that was used as an additive to gasolines that had lead anti-knocking agents, a pest control agent containing this element, and a method is also responsible for ozone depletion. That is not That is incorrect. And has been limited in production by the Montreal Protocol, used as a fire retardant and named for its pungent smell. For the points, named as reddish brown. That is correct. And that is for 5. Thus, we are moving on. Thank you for 4. Good job, Regan. Question 23. A mixture of methane, ammonia, was used in a Miller-Urey experiment which found these things to be made when an electric arc is created. Chains of these things are linked together to create paths for the point. That is correct, and that is 4. We are moving on. Question number 24. This vector quantity is uniform in certain regions when created by a Helmholtz coil, an induced version of this quantity, opposed to the original version of this quality per Lenz's law. An electric current generates this quantity. That is Shrikov. That is correct, and that is for 5. He said that. So here we go. Question 25. The saturation ratio, which is the ratio of two forms of this quantity for a solution problem in pure water with a flat surface, appear in the polar equation in meteorology. Examples of this quantity are multiplied by a molar fraction in Raoult's law. For the point, name is a quantity that measures the force exerted over area for a point. That is exactly. Prompt.
Share question.
That is incorrect. That is in equilibrium with a solid or liquid of the same substance. That is incorrect. Second buzz. All right, that is time. We were looking for vapor pressure, right? Vapor pressure. Moving on to question 26. Doing a great job. Compound with this interaction will lose a crystalline structure when undergoing solvation in solvents like water. This interaction is exhibited in salts like sodium chloride, and that is Shrikov. That is correct. We go moving on to question 27. A structure called the race releases mucilage, allowing these organisms to glide. The 2 borders of these organisms include in the centriles. Sulfuric acid is used to create the cell wall of these organisms, which generally have to decay and is called a prostitutum with a point. That is incorrect. These unicellular organisms, that is outright. That is incorrect. Of algae known as genes of the that is negative. That is correct. That is for 28. The IAC type of this device utilizes CO2 thermomagnetism prior to use. New safety measures must be removed before the orange tip on the other side of the device is being locked. When self-administered, patients swing these devices towards their thigh to ensure that the muscle is correct. That is not true. That is correct. Again, that is for 5. All right, question 9. The small Shelly fauna preceded this event, which saw the first appearance of trilobites and chordates. Simon Conway Morris studied this period's rapid diversification. That is FA. That is rapid. It's kind of research. So, no, that's an accurate. That's all. All right. So we are replacing question 9. All right. Okay. This physician gained fame treating gladiators and described the recurrent laryngeal nerve descending phase. His theory of the 4 fingers dominated evidence. That is correct. And that is what it says. All right, don't back up. All right, this is our final question. This group includes rubidium as well as the most reactive element for radiation. That is Isaac. That is correct. And that is for 6. That was the last question. All right, it's all right. So, get down to that question. Right here's our high pressure. The Raman Zeta function and the column logarithms here in state equal to name this level. Part of it is not following from statistics, actually, that is algebra. For E, that is incorrect. We can quantum statistics explain the laser flex cohesive Hall react one term for subatomic part. Then, which references the name of this magazine for this points, name is an physicist who with Albert Einstein shares his name in the state of water occurring in low temperatures, which is called a condensate. And Einstein's question. Correct answer you looking for expose. Give me minutes for getting your question for us. So please just hold on. More layers spiritually, and the whole artery, while weaker is the love area, so they have to adopt. This kind of area is often present in desert light bulbs to protect filaments from oxidation. That is helpful. That is a threat.
job, everybody.